7:36, good morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Isabel.
It says Stephen and Anne in the auto cue there, didn't it?
She's still away. Will people stop messaging me saying, when's Anne coming back? She's off.
She's ready.
She's having some time off.
Yeah.
I'm still in touch with her all the time. She is coming back to GBNEWS. Yeah. It's not, she hasn't gone. And everyone's conspiracy theories. Has she left? No, she hasn't. She's just having a break.
Yeah, she'll be back.
So,
right, we are going through the papers today. Sean McDonald, Liz Kershaw here to take us through them, and we can take a quick look at some of the front pages.
Oh, do you?
Why not?
All right, go on.
Most of them, to be honest, we'll start with the Express, focusing on the trial wrapping up yesterday in the case of Olivia Pratt-Corbell. Justice for Olivia, says the Express, as Cashman was convicted.
The Times says workers are facing a rapid rise in retirement age under a proposed pensions cap.
The Eye takes a bit further, depressing reading if you're in your 40s. It says there'll be a sting in the tail. Those in their 40s may have to work until they're 70.
The Guardian has tax and price rises, claiming families will be £700 a year worse off.
And finally, the Daily Star reports on artificial intelligent chatbots that are going to take over the world, but are at the moment still being befuddled by Wordle, so perhaps we don't need to panic just yet.
Okay, I mean, crazy.
So much to get into in that story.
Yes, it's just bonkers. Let's talk to the hosts of Blethered Podcast, Sean McDonald and legendary broadcaster Liz Kershaw, who are both here. Good morning to you both.
Hiya.
Morning.
Let's have a look. Oh, what have we got?
I've
got the wrong list here.
The Telegraph. Okay.
Oh, there you go. That's fine. Thank you very much.
If you're buying drugs, you are responsible for Olivia's death, and this is what the police have come out and said, and I think that's a really powerful message, Liz.
Yeah, it shook me when I saw it yesterday. I mean, we've heard a lot in recent years about county lines and young teenagers buzzing up and down the country on late-night trains to deliver drugs to the shires so that wealthy people at dinner parties can snort coke.
Yeah.
And next time I'm in, because I know them because I've worked in the music business for so long. Next time I'm in the presence of a rock star, and he gets his credit card out and starts chopping up on the table in the hotel room, I'll be thinking more about what's gone into not just the gangs in Colombia and getting it over here and somebody swallowing packets of drugs, which if you've seen that come out, it's disgusting. Yeah. It's what it takes to actually put those drugs into people's hands. So I absolutely agree with this policeman. However, what I would say is, why are certain drugs illegal and others are freely available to buy in shops or be prescribed by doctors? I mean, my mum was on a cocktail of mind-altering drugs. I can't remember all the names, and you can go and buy alcohol, you can get pissed and violent. Yeah, I'm saying it to make an impact. I apologise to anybody sensitive watching, but then if you're sensitive, you're probably not watching this anyway. The government hypocritically allows the sale of alcohol and tobacco. It's just hiked the price of a packet of fags by £1.50, and takes the tax. There's like more than 2/3 of the price of a packet of cigarettes goes to the Treasury, and at the same time they tell us it's unhealthy. Well, yes, it is, and so is alcohol, and so is cocaine, and so is the kind of cannabis that's sold these days. So my thing is, and I've seen experts discuss this, policemen and doctors who are into addiction treatment. If it were available, licensed, taxed, distributed like alcohol, tobacco, barbiturates that are prescribed by the NHS,
not going to happen.
Then you would. Well, I'm just saying, in an ideal world, you wouldn't have these idiots going round gunslinging round Liverpool, and it's nothing to do. I lived in Liverpool. I first went to Liverpool in the 60s as a child. I was so shocked to see the Scotland Road with all the bars on the shop windows. I was asking my dad why it was, and then I lived in Liverpool in the 70s during strikes and everything. It was more deprived then than it is now. Liverpool's had a real boost culturally, economically. You can't blame deprivation for this carry on. It's drugs.
Well, let me just say, Harry's been in touch, and Harry says, how dare you blame Olivia's death on cannabis at the weekend? When you make anything illegal, it becomes a black market.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the substance itself.
No, let's bring Sean into the debate, because I know that, you've got a problem with the glamorisation of some of the characters involved in this trial.
Yeah, absolutely. We went off in quite the tangent there, so let's come back to the headline. So Merseyside Police saying if you're buying drugs, you're responsible for Olivia's death. I think that's a slight, you could argue there's a slight bit of mendacity in that statement, in the sense that this is a multifaceted issue. There are people who are involved in this chain all the way through. Yes, there is a degree of culpability, I would say. However, this is a wider issue. I think the people who are ultimately responsible and shouldn't be getting a let-off is the man who's committed the murder and his accomplice.
Well, he hasn't got off, has he? He's been
who tried to get him off. No, we're talking about with Merseyside Police giving that.
If these middle-class people having, cocaine at dinner parties stopped using it, then these dealers wouldn't have the fast cars and the glamorous partners.
Of course, which is
crime and...
Yeah, so like I was saying, it comes down to this. There is a multifaceted sort of chain. But these people, if they're behaving in the criminal underworld and they're part of that, they're going to find other ways. It's not going to be their only source of income. There are also social sort of contributing factors, like you were talking to the young guy who used to be in the gangs, and he was saying that when he went out, these were the people that he was surrounded with. There was maybe a lack of role models, there was a lack of sort of other opportunities or other routes, and this is a wee girl that's lost her life, and it is ultimately somebody horrific who's done it. I think it's inaccurate to say that it's solely of people that are consuming drugs. It's a much wider sort of mosaic.
Yeah.
Which is why I widened it out. Yeah.
Let's have a look at the eye, Sean. There's an outcry because people don't want over these plans to house migrants on a barge. Whether it's this rudimentary accommodation, whether it's a barge, whether it's old student accommodation, whether it's old and disused army accommodation, people aren't happy.
Yeah, this is taken. This specific one is in Portland Port in Dorset. Now, I think the headline is "Plan to put migrants on barge sparks local outcry," but I think language is important. These are asylum seekers, and that's, a whole other...
are they?
It's a whole... Yeah, they are. They are asylum seekers. If you read the story, you see that that's where they are. We have a responsibility as part of the global asylum system to be taking people. They have to go somewhere. Again, I come back to it's the unenviable position. Where do you put them? Because there's a lack of affordable housing, there's a lack of housing. In Glasgow, quite near me, there's a cruise ship, like a commercial cruise liner, which has Ukrainian asylum seekers. And it's bad for them. It's not good for the area. It's unfair to be putting them in these wee cabins. Dorset Council have said that they have concerns about the suitability of the location because it's an area that's restricted, but people can come and go, so that has its own issues. And you've got Paul Kimber, a local Labour councillor, saying that the problems with the location and where people are being put.
The truth is, we can list all the problems with it, but what is the answer? If it's not the barge, and as you say, we have this responsibility to take a proportion of them, we need to build more of these suitable houses. Where do we find the money for that? Where do we build them? There's always going to be... It is a problem.
It is, and I would say so, but the lack of housing doesn't just apply to asylum seekers. It applies to people across the country, people struggling to have places to live. The answer is, in a nutshell, to build more houses. It's not always that simple.
No.
Which is why we're at this crossroads.
Let's have a look at the Telegraph, Liz, and CGT, capital gains tax. What is Labour going to do if it gets into power?
Well, the point of this story is they don't really seem to know. Angela Rayner, the deputy leader of the Labour Party, announced that they would increase it. So currently you pay capital gains tax according to the rate of income tax you pay. So if you pay lower rate, 20%, you'll pay 18% capital gains, and if you pay the higher rate of 40%, you'll pay 28%. So Angela Rayner was saying everybody should pay 40% tax, capital gains tax. So if you've got shares and you sell them, or you've bought a property and you sell that...
a lot of people do as their retirement plan.
Then you should pay 40% capital gains tax on it. However, she's been kind of shouted down by Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, who said she's got no plans to change capital gains tax. Sir Keir Starmer has said, we will set out our position when we go into an election, so he's not saying, and neither is Yvette Cooper. I think any party that really tries to... I think the whole tax system is so complicated and it's not a level playing field. It's a brave party that says, right, we're going to grab this and we're going to completely revise and streamline the tax system in this country. But any party that attempts to dabble with not capital gains tax so much, but more a contentious issue, inheritance tax, is really, if they try and increase it, is really
inheritance tax is just so wrong. It just is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just so wrong.
Well, it doesn't affect... I mean, they'll be playing to different groups, won't they? The Labour Party's got a problem because on the one hand, they'll be playing to what's described now as the red wall. So you'll be playing to people who live in Rochdale, where I come from, and Wigan, and right up to the northeast, whose homes, if they were to die, like my mum, when she died, her house was worth 290,000. We weren't troubled by that, no. But if you had the same house in the southeast, it'd be like 800,000 or more. If you've got a terraced house, as you know, in London, you can't leave it to your kids because you're only allowed, as a married couple, you'd be allowed up to £1 million for your prime residence, and then you could have been paying a fantastically high mortgage and working hard to do that all your life to pay. So anyway, it's just contentious, and I'm just saying, the Labour Party can't seem to say what the policy is at the moment, but the Conservatives also, it was increased slightly by Cameron and Osborne so that you can leave a house up to £1 million to your children or spouse without incurring inheritance tax to make sure people didn't lose their homes. But that's 10 years ago now. Everybody's scared of it, and as I say, it's part of the whole tax system, which it's so bitty, isn't it? And I know it's a minefield.
Yeah, well, there'll be people watching who've been affected by that, maybe lost their spouse and then lost their home as a result of inheritance tax. And do get in touch, tell us your stories. It is an emotive topic and probably the most unpopular tax out there, isn't it? But I know we're talking about capital gains, but inheritance, as you say, one of the most poisonous. Any thoughts on inheritance tax there, Sean? Before we wrap the papers? Or...
No, you've covered it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Thank you.
Well, look, we're going to leave that there with Sean and with Liz. More from both of them just after 8:30.